Good evening. Can you hear me? Great. Welcome to the second half of the Kalamazoo Art League season. You are in for a great presentation this evening by now LA artist Jonah Elijah. Yeah. So I want to thank Western Michigan for co-sponsoring Jonah and working on this together. We're really excited to have you here. I'm really moved by your artwork, and so I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. I want to thank the KIA, Michelle, and all the staff for hosting us. I want to thank Michelle and all the KIA staff for hosting and helping us. We couldn't do it without them. And I want to thank Jennifer in particular because she does make the trains run on time. You saw the sneaker exhibit start out there as you came in, and that's coming right up, the Future Now virtual sneakers, and you don't want to miss that. And you don't want to miss our remaining season. We have Kalamazoo's own famous muralist Heidi Weiss will be speaking next on April 29th at 10 a.m. And then following that, we'll have Eric Souther, who does work with technology and art, and that's a particular interest of mine. And so you don't want to miss that. Eric will be speaking at 6:30 on May 13th. So lots of good things happening. Pay attention to the website. Those of you who are members, you'll be getting a focus about everything. And speaking of membership, if you're not a member, tonight's a great time to join. Lots of good things happening. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kat Crotchett from Western to introduce our speaker.
Hi, I just had to make sure that Jim was aware I have no idea how to work the lights or who does it. So, can you hear me? There we go. Thanks for letting me know. I always appreciate that. Thank you for coming out tonight, especially since it's cold and snowy and we're all really tired of that. So it's nice to gather together in community of really intelligent, curious people to learn new things about people and art. And I also have to thank not only the Kalamazoo Art League for helping to co-sponsor this event, but also Western Michigan University's Frosted School of Art Visiting Artists and Scholars Fund, because they gave us a grant to help bring Jonah here tonight. Really excited to introduce you to Jonah and for you to get to know him a little bit. He's a visual artist whose work lives at the intersection of memory, imagination, and lived experience. His practice uses past, present, and future to explore identity through painting, drawing, sculpture, and installation. Rooted in personal stories, yet expansive in scope, Elijah engages religion, mythology, history, and collective memory to examine the humanity, tenderness, and the complexity of Black life in America. Growing up in a predominantly Black neighborhood, Elijah developed a visual language shaped by both familiarity and ambiguity. He fuses formative memories with present-day experiences to create scenes that feel nostalgic, immersive, and quietly critical, inviting viewers to reflect on how Blackness is seen, remembered, and lived. His recent work experiments with perspective, capturing scenes from unexpected angles that pull the viewer into the worlds of possibility rather than fixed reality. He earned his BA in studio art from the University of Texas at San Antonio and his MFA from Claremont Graduate University. His work has been exhibited widely across the United States, and he's very active. His practice has been further shaped by artist residencies at the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts, where we met, 4 or 5 years ago, right after he graduated from grad school, and Moulin Anef in Ovalar, France, as well as Deli Grocery in New York. He's also a recipient of the MRH Artist Fund. Across these experiences, Elijah continues to build a body of work that invites viewers not just to look, but to step inside into his community, his memory, and the world that he creates in his work. Please join me in welcoming Jonah Elijah.
All right. Wow, that was great. Thank you all for being here. It's truly an honor to be in front of you, giving an artist lecture. And, it's always a pleasure to show all of my artwork. That's like an artist's dream, to just show everything we have. Now, let's see if we can get this on. Okay. All right. Can you guys see that? Probably turn the lights down just a little bit more. Okay. But what you see right here are 3 different images, and this is kind of where I am right now. This is the one to the far right is of a little kid praying, which is a memory piece, and the one in the middle is a sculpture. It's called the Original Globetrotter. It's made with paper mache, and I sourced a bunch of globes. Every time I go to the Salvation Army, I somehow always run into a globe. And the one to the far left is called the Bad American Dream, which is an acronym for BAD. And like Kat said, I weave in between my memory, between my imagination, and between historical events. Like these are all 3. Beyond Perspectives. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this, but this is a young 14-year-old, Andres Valencia. He is doing work in a style of what we call cubism, or he's making work like Picasso or George Condo. And he was receiving a lot of flack, for making work like that, because he's making work similar to another artist. But I honestly was happy for him, because he's 14 years old, and he's producing a body of work. And I could relate to him, because when I first started painting, I was doing the same thing. And I started off I took a painting class for non-art majors while I was a junior at the University of Texas at San Antonio. And I fell in love with the process of painting. It was an oil painting class. But now that I made this presentation, it really made me look at why I make work the way I do. And it was because of all of the classes that I took as an undergrad. Being that I switched my major over to art as a junior, and I wanted to get out of school really quick, I crammed all of my art classes in my semesters, and I ended up graduating in 2017. So 2015, I switched my major over, and then 2017, I got my Bachelor's of Arts. And I was taking, like I said, wood shop, painting classes, photography classes, and I was producing work like this. So this is 2016, 2015, but I'm going to show you guys my attempt of making a body of work in a specific style. So this character right here, his name was Rerun. I would continue to make this same, like Cubist, Picasso type face, me not knowing, I was just being free. I'm gonna try to go slow too. So I do have a lot of images, so I may go through some of these slides, because I do want you guys to see everything. And I should set a timer for myself, just for good measures. All right, cool. And here's another one. And so this is a mask that I made out of cardboard. And like I said, what I realized during undergrad, I was shaping my DNA as an artist. I couldn't just make paintings. I was so interested in sculpture, and I was interested in just painting and sculpture. I was interested in also assembling things, assemblage. And now this is a picture of four guys playing the game of dominoes. I was in Jamaica. But when I got out of undergrad and when I went to my master's program at CGU, I had a series that I was starting, and it was called The Domino Effect. And I started it because in my neighborhood, I was having some of my friends, it was black on black crime. And I was figuring out a way, how could I talk to my peers and let them know that, this is a domino effect. We all look the same and we're committing harm on each other. So this is one of the pieces that I made out of that situation. But it led me to make a body of work where I anthropomorphize the dominoes. And I was interested in history. And this one is called the 5 for 5 compromise, which is a conversation with the 3/5 compromise, which was in the Constitution, which basically was saying that Black people were equal to chattel. So this is wood, this is canvas on top of wood, and this is also real dominoes. And you see the top part of that domino is brown, just to play with skin tone. And this one is called F12. F12 is like slang for saying, 12 is like slang for police. It's a lot of that being said in today's climate right now. But this is a way of using the big 6 and using the numbers of 12 and the slang and, also on wood. And now this one was made, this is actually a mural at Station Museum in Houston, Texas. They commissioned me to do a mural during the time of the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020 to make something that relates to that in that situation. So this is on a garage door that still lives there. And it says, "I know my life matters. Do you?" And here's another one. Still playing with the dominoes, but I'm just kind of showing you guys how I gradually got out of making work this way, just showing like the evolution. Now, this is a very pivotal moment. So this is 2019, second semester of my grad school. So I started grad school at CGU in 2018, and second semester, I was, the first semester I was doing the domino things, and I was also making other work too. I was doing some figurative work, but one of my teachers, David Amico, he came for a studio visit. We talked, and then he just rushed he picked up one of my shoes that I had painted on, and he walked out of my studio. I was like, where is this guy going? But he was like, he wanted to talk to me in the backyard. And he was like, Jonah, you're talking about all of these things from where you're from in the streets, and not the streets, but in my neighborhood, just the reflecting Black life. And he was like, man, it's these objects out here. You should, you're already doing assemblage. You should use some of the material that's back here in the backyard that people are going to throw away, and find a way to tell your story with using real objects. And I was looking at a piece, I was looking at a bike wheel, and I was looking at this door, and I was like, wow, I see a scene from my childhood. I see a scene from the house that I grew up in, and I made this piece right here. This is called Rosewood and Delano. This is a big door frame on a piece of wood panel with a bicycle wheel. It's another wood frame at the top with the basketball net, and it's a big combine. I also, during that second semester of grad school, 2019, I saw a Robert Rauschenberg show at LACMA. It was called Half a Mile, I believe, and it really influenced me, because what I thought this was, I thought it was just rigging, but come to find out, the art term for this is called assemblage or combines. And I had a teacher. He put a book on my desk that were it was a book of African American artists from the 60s and the 60s to the 80s, and what they did in the 60s during the uprising in Los Angeles, how they would, after the fires, they would collect a lot of the material and make artwork out of it. And some of those artists were John Outerbridge and Noah Purefoy. And I saw what they were doing with the artwork, and I was impressed because they were still telling Black stories, but with using real material. And it really struck me. And this is another piece. This is about the house that I grew up in, and which was sold. My grandparents had sold it, and me and my father had to move. But that house had I had a lot of memories in that house, and it was a way for me to tell that story about the house that I was raised in. This is another piece that came out of this. This is on cardboard, but this introduces a new series where I'm using actual tennis shoes. So it's so interesting that I came at a time where a new show is about to be showing here with tennis shoes, because I actually come from the sneaker culture. And I was telling a few of you yesterday that I bought my first car from selling shoes in high school. And I was a collector. I was a collector of sneakers, not artwork. I should have been collecting. And this is one of these pieces. This is one of the pieces that I made. It's called Footsteps in the Dark, which is the Isley Brothers love song that I turned into a kind of, which is about being a kid and going downstairs and grabbing a snack. And then when you got to cut the lights off, you run back to your room because you're afraid of something that's not even behind you being behind you. So you would see like these little ghostly figures in the top right corner. But these are real shoes. These are Adidas shell toes attached to the piece of cardboard and wood. And this is another shoe sole as well. For me, it was like I was designing my own sole, shoe sole. And this is kind of the beginning of me attaching shoes and keeping that sneaker culture. These are some Air Jordan 5s. And that's also a skateboard attached to this piece of canvas. It's really a clock. It's talking about how time goes. It's called Time Flies, from night to day. So you see the short arm and the long arm. You also see a little bit of that domino creeping back in, but it was the domino phase had dwindled away. Here's another one. This is called Can You Handle Life? It's really a play on words, because if you're in basketball terminology, that's really what I forgot to say to you guys, that that I was intending to go to the NBA. That's what I meant to say in the very beginning before I got into my work. You know what? I got up here and I got a little nervous, but I forgot to tell you guys my basketball background. So I was a basketball player, and I was intending to, I tried to walk, I did try out at the University of Texas at San Antonio, and I got on the practice team. This is before I started painting, but they put me on the girls' practice team. So that didn't last long. And I had to figure out what else was it that I loved to do other than basketball. And I started to draw again. And that's what made me want to take that painting class for non-art majors. And it was a dream, the basketball dreams. I woke up from the basketball dreams, and I figured out painting was my calling, was something I was passionate about. It was something, drawing and painting, it was something, well, drawing I would do as a kid. But I didn't really take it too serious because I thought I was an athlete going to the NBA. So this is a piece where I'm reflecting on that memory of being, really working out that practice, working out the skill of handling the basketball, which is having handles, but also being a high school student and thinking about the things that was going on in my neighborhood. So I was questioning myself about the loss of friends and all of that thing. You even have some people back here playing dominoes, just thinking about what I would see as I walk down the street dribbling the basketball. This is a piece called Ghetto Dreams. The dream of wanting to be a basketball player in the NBA. And this is real shoes on the piece. It's some Air Jordan 1s. These are really expensive. And somebody actually donated those shoes to me. And what I noticed was, not what I noticed, but what I knew, that cutting shoes, I would put this shoe down the bandsaw and cut it right in half, and I could use the shoe going one direction, and I could use the shoe going in a different direction. I was like, cool. It was actually, some would say it's a lazy tactic because you don't have to paint the shoe. But in this piece, the hard part was doing the crowd. So if you actually go and look at Michael Jordan 1985 dunk contest, these people that you see in the crowd are actually there. So it's a guy with like a suit and tie. He's actually in the crowd. And that let me know I would never do crowds again. Oh, man. Here's another one with the shoes. Also another one. The shoes are at the bottom. And I was making this piece. I was commissioned by Grand Park, LA, in downtown Los Angeles. And they wanted me to do something about July 4th and in 2021. The theme was home and freedom. So I was like, hey, you know what? I could play with the word freedom. And I could include the history of Black people being brought to America. And at the time, it was something going on in the news where they said they were canceling the teaching of Black history in Florida somewhere. So I was like, oh man, this is a way for me to still include Black history in my work. So free doom is what his shirt says. Now, still using those shoes, I'm getting more into to perspective from being, this is a shot of being underneath. So one thing I love to do is to think about where I am as a viewer when I'm looking at paintings. Where am I in this picture? Being in Claremont, California, which is in the IE of Los Angeles County, it's a bunch of mountains. And me being from Houston, Texas, there's no mountains. And just being around mountains, I was so amazed and I was in awe of how big they were and how small I was in comparison. Like, wow. And I was looking at the clouds and I was like, wow, we're so much smaller, the relationship. And I was like, you know what? I wonder if ants could see the way we see, how big will we be to the ants? And this is what came out of that thought. So you have someone at the free throw line. Here's another one. This is a guy with an umbrella on a rainy day. On the swing, I'm sure we all know that history painting by Frognaut. This is the power line. This is kind of what's going on out there with the shoes on the line, which actually is symbolic for something else in Black neighborhoods. It actually means where drugs are being sold. Now, see, that was the beneath perspective, but now I'm taking you from above. One thing I love about Spike Lee is that he always starts his movies off celebrating Black life. Sometimes he has the view of above, and he's kind of like going over the neighborhood, and he shows you these different vignettes of Black people playing dominoes, laughing, playing. And that's something I really loved about his movies. It was very cinematic. And that's something I always wanted to be able to bring to my art, is that cinematic, the cinematism, if that's a word, or the cinematicness of Spike Lee's work, and bring it into my visual artwork. So now I'm kind of playing with above, below, and of course, regular, how we see things from up front, like center. And also, I'm really thinking about one thing about being in California. It really made me reflect back on home, and that's where memory really started to come into my practice. So I know I'm showing you guys different series and bodies of work, but what's so chaotic is, well, what's chaotic about this, I probably was working on all of these things at the same time. So I probably was working on the circle with the shoes, but also working on memory pieces on one wall. And that's why at the beginning of the lecture, I was telling you guys, my DNA, being that I crammed all of those classes in undergrad, I kind of cursed myself, because now I like to do sculpture and painting and, just be here and here all at the same time. But all of it kind of is on the same line. And it's very fun. But this is a piece that is, I'm using my memory to reflect on a situation of being in the pool with my siblings. Here's an image of my father lifting weights. My sister actually hates this piece, but it's called "A Hard Head Makes a Soft Behind." This actually happened where she was pushing me under the cart, and I felt like I was flying. But we got a whooping after this. And this is I was actually playing checkers with my grandfather, and this was the last time I saw him. But at the same time, while we were playing checkers, I was like, oh, this would be a great painting. So I was visualizing what it would look like if someone had a camera, because I couldn't set the camera up. He would be like, what are you doing? You're like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to set a camera while we're playing the game of checkers? So I had to use my memory to see what this would look like to remember this scene. And he had a cigarette in his hand. So he's looking at the cameraman. I'm using my imagination as if I did go and set up the camera. Like, what are you looking at? So he's looking at the viewer. And here's a memory painting of my father cutting my hair. Another one this one is called A Father Should Take You Further. It was actually raised by my father during the week and raised by my mother on the weekends. So I pretty much lived a different life every week. I would be with my siblings on the weekend, and I'll be by myself during the week. So it was just so many different perspectives every week. So I had that in my artist statement in grad school, and I realized that wasn't like something you want to keep in your artist statement, but that was definitely evident. And here's a basketball piece. And here's 2021. I know some of these pieces I haven't really been keeping you intact with the timeline of things, and I've just been showing you guys the body of work. But 2021 is where I met Kat, and I would say this was a great moment for me, because I went to this residency, went to VCCA in Virginia, Amherst, Virginia. And I told myself, Jonah, you got to make a body of work, and you can't take a bunch of stuff with you. You just have to take paper. I took paper and a few magazines, and I was able to make a works on paper series. And I realized that's the way for me to really make a body of work, is to limit myself on the things that I can take to make a really cohesive body of work. And this is the Works on Paper series. But I met Kat here, and this was great because she had some phenomenal work. I feel like I was around writers really great painters and sculptors, and it was just my first time at a residency. This residency had a very rich history. It actually was. It used to be a plantation, so it was really a trippy. It was really an interesting time for me just to be on that plantation. So I was able to use those newspapers that I had. I actually took a newspaper book, which was the LA Times catalog of all of the sports from like 1883 all the way to 1983. So it had 100 years of history. So of course, the one to the left is a portrait of Jesse Owens, and when he won in Berlin. I'm blanking on the year that happened. 36. Thank you. I have some historians in here tonight. And also being on VCCA, it made me think about, just the history of Virginia, certain rebellions that took place on plantations. But the interesting thing that I noticed being at VCCA was I kept seeing these red birds. So I thought to Google it. Well, what does the red bird symbolize? In certain cultures, it represents like an ancestor, or an ancestor is visiting you, or, it symbolizes like your ancestors. And I thought that was really interesting because I started to pick up on the way the red bird would sing, and I could hear it. And I was like, man, I should just do some stuff. I started to have this spiritual type of feeling while I was there. So I made some works on paper with the red bird being around me or on me. And it was called The Ancestors Are With Me. So from there, from VCCA, it really got the ball rolling for me, and I was able to do a residency in New York, Queens, in Ridgewood. And it was a self-funded residency. A guy who owned a gallery, he called the gallery Deli Grocery. So if anybody's been to New York, there's deli groceries, delis on every corner. He took the deli mark and made it into a gallery. And he made a residency for artists. And I was able to do my first solo in New York, and I had a great time. I was really inspired. And the name of this show is called Above, Below, and Center. Thinking about those different perspectives that I was using during grad school in this body of work in New York. Show you a few of these pieces. So that's a real trampoline. That was a trampoline I would see every day. I would take the trains. My first time being in New York, so I'm getting used to the trains and walking around. And I saw this trampoline sitting by the trash can every day, and I just kept looking at it. And one day I said, forget it, I'm gonna take it into the studio. So I took it into the studio because I knew I had a relationship with trampolines. And I noticed that if I'm paying attention to something and I keep looking at something, I should bring it in the studio. And that was one of those things where I painted a scene of 3 kids jumping on the trampoline. And yes, that was a very fun painting to make, because if you ever felt the texture of a trampoline, it's not the best texture to be painting on. And here's that was above, so here's beneath. Also, scenes that I was seeing while I was in New York, I would see 3 women or 3 little children double dutching from beneath. Here's a closer look at that one. And here's a center perspective. And this was something that actually took place in Atlanta. In 2022, a lot of the rappers in Atlanta, they wanted to stop the shooting in Atlanta, and they decided to have a water gun fest to bring unity between the certain neighborhoods. And it turned out to be a really fun thing in the neighborhood, but the police arrived because they were having such a great time. And when the police got there, they just sprayed the police with the water guns, and the police couldn't do anything but submit because they were just out there having fun. But this actually happened, and it was a very intense video because it's like the police, black people shooting water guns at the police. It was like you're on the edge of your seat the whole video. But it turned out to be a good time. And this is a TV that I drug in the studio, and I turned it into a painting canvas inside the TV. Oh, wow. This is a scene. I forgot to put the title on here, but this is from my first solo exhibition in Los Angeles. It's called A Day in the Life, which is including the different perspectives, but also it's really me telling a story from waking up, living in a Black neighborhood, and just walking through the neighborhood and the things that you would see. So it starts over in the right corner. You see the perspective of the shoes. Hopefully I have oh yes. So this is like this, depending on where you are in this exhibition, it starts here. And it flows from getting ready to go out into the world. So the one on the right is called First Day of School. And my mother would always be on me if I didn't have my pants ironed correctly. And this is before leaving the house. So different scenes and different vignettes of scenes in the neighborhood. And above perspective. This one is called South Central Tension. It's about the gang violence in South Central. And this is above perspective of men shooting dice, gambling. Now, this is from my residency in France. This is called my Reflexion series. So while in France, I made a whole body of work where like I said, when I do residencies, I take a few things. That's like my challenge, to challenge myself to take only a few things. So of course they stopped me in customs because I had a bunch of mirrors in my bag, and they were like, "What are you about to go do?" But I had already took the glass out of it. And my plan was to go to France and make the Reflexion series about me reflecting on the people I love, and just how a handheld mirror was always something my mother had in the house. I feel like when I was talking with my friends, it was like, "Oh yeah, we have a handheld mirror. We have, everybody had a handheld mirror." So I felt like it was a Black staple, and I was like, "Man, I really want to do portraits of people reflecting and showing our beauty and celebrating Blackness." This is actually a portrait of me. This is when I had hair. I was probably edging myself up a little too much, and now you can see where we are right now. But this is called Precision. And it's funny because in France, to plug, you use a different plug. And when I would plug my regular plug up, it would almost blow up my my clippers. So I had to get a converter. but that was just interesting because I had to edge myself up outside. And when we were in the countryside of France. So the people that lived there, they were like, what is this black guy doing? This is very unusual for the south of France, Ovilar. It's actually a portrait of my wife. Uh-oh, that's me. So that's me with that was actually supposed to go first. And how many lives? What I forgot to mention was my master's program was 2018 to, I was supposed to graduate in 2020. But of course, as we know, the whole world shut down. And I was supposed to do my thesis in March of 2020, but that's when everything shut down. So I had no thesis. Everything was postponed. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the virtual exhibitions where you tap the screen and you can walk around. So I actually got one of those for my thesis. But my school, Claremont Graduate University, I was so busy after I virtually graduated with the residencies and doing murals. They were like, Jonah, we have to bring you back so you could redeem yourself and do a real thesis. By that time, I was making the basketball pieces, the beneath perspective. I was doing a lot of things reflecting basketball. And this question actually popped up in my mind is how many lives? And the question was, I wonder how many lives have been saved through basketball, but also it's like saved, but also lost because of basketball. Growing up in my neighborhood, I knew people who lost their lives because of the game, but one of my best friends made it to the NBA from basketball. So it was an interesting question, and it led me to do this exhibit. I don't know why we didn't put the question mark here, but yes. So this is how many lives solo exhibition at Claremont Graduate University. That's charcoal. That's actual charcoal that you use to barbecue that I turned into a basketball court. And this is me doing the assemblage, building these actual crosses. This was my response. So one thing I like to do is I like to have conversations with the artists who have painted Jesus. I feel like Jesus is one of the in the early Renaissance paintings. There's a lot of paintings of Jesus, and I wanted to make my own. And this is a triptych, really, and that's a basketball being nailed to the cross. And this is because I knew my friend that made it to the NBA. I noticed he would play basketball religiously. It became like a religion to him, and he would practice it day and night. And this was my response to that. So this is the beneath perspective, not using real shoes. Those shoes are like huge. Couldn't find any shoes to glue on, so I had to paint them this time. And that one is called Can You Handle Life, #2. Kind of reflecting on the one that I showed in the beginning with the yellow background, just from a beneath perspective. And this is an actual basketball goal that I painted. I painted a portrait of a kid in the middle of the square. Oh wow! We hop right into the another series. So this is a bootlicker series that I started shortly after. So if I go back here, this is like 2023. Then 2024, of course, that's where we have a new election. And things got a little bit political for me because I was really looking at the world And it was an image. I was like, man, I really can't look at this image, but I have to make it because I was seeing what was going on from my community, seeing rappers perform and really bootlicking to get things from a government that we've never even gotten before. So it was a sense of when I saw like rappers performing to get votes for people, it was a sense of bootlicking. And that's what, when I saw it, I was like, that's such a terrible thing. But it led me to make a bunch of political work, the Bootlicker series, which coincides with the Globetrotter series. It's kind of all one. So it's like the Globetrotters is about the Harlem Globetrotters, but it's also about how Black people even got into the NBA. The first Globetrotter, his name was Sweetwater. He was actually drafted to the NBA. But the history on the Globetrotters is they thought the Globetrotters were just doing games, were spinning the ball on their fingers. And they set up an exhibition game between the Globetrotters and the Minneapolis Lakers. And the Globetrotters beat them, and they sold out Madison Square Garden. So now I'm bringing you up more to where I am today with the Bootlicker and Globetrotter series. It's kind of all one, and we're getting more. We're getting closer to where I am today. This is actually a series that I'm still making. So let me show you some more. Here's another one. It's called The So-Called American Negro, the African American so-called American Negro, boot, something like that. Sorry about that. I should have included the title on this one, but this is the African American flag. Also having a conversation with David Hammonds, who made the African American flag, and turning that flag into a boot. But also, this is a globe where I cut out Africa, and I actually made this. I actually turned the globe with Africa cut out. That's part of the Globetrotter series that I'll show you in a couple slides. But here's another piece that's a part of the Globetrotter series and also the Bad American Dream series. And here's a closer look at this painting. I felt that it was good for me to just kind of pose, but lay on the ground with the piece. And this piece is called America is a Habitation of ... Very busy piece. So the Bad American Dream series or Globetrotter series is it's actually something from my imagination. It's about if my ancestors visited me and I had a bad dream of taking on the experiences of what happened to us from slavery, as if I had a dream that I was in their situation or in their shoes and waking up from that dream, just having a bad dream. But anybody can have that bad American dream. And here's a piece from the Bad American Dream. I'm kind of, with this piece, with this Bad American Dream series, channeling my inner Francis Bacon. So I've been looking at a lot of his work and how his work makes me feel. His work actually makes me feel like I'm looking at a bad dream. So this is me having the Bad American Dream series is a way for me to communicate and have a conversation with Francis Bacon's work. And here's that the Globetrotter series, the sculptures. So actually, this one with Africa cut out is actually a mirror inside of there. So this right here is a mirror. So once you walk up to it, you actually immediately see yourself. And when I was showing these pieces last year, I would just sit in the corner and watch people look at themselves in Africa. It was like they would jump back, and I wondered why was that. And the reason why you may be asking, why am I cutting things out in the globe? There's an artist, and why am I blanking on his name right now? And he's actually a Black artist. His name is Fred Wilson. Fred Wilson, he's done a lot of work where he uses globes and he cuts out different parts of Africa. So in my work, I try to always communicate with my ancestors or with other artists that I'm really interested in. And I try to, keep the conversation going. The piece Footsteps in the Dark is actually in communication with Basquiat, because he would always honor the Black musicians. So Footsteps in the Dark, like I said, was an Isley Brothers song, which is a love song that I turned into like kind of a scary theme painting. But that was my way of thinking, like, dang, if Basquiat was still alive, would he still be making work that was honoring Black musicians? I know that has nothing to do with these pieces, but here's another one. It's called this piece is called The Original Globetrotter. The Globetrotter series is not only about the Harlem Globetrotters, yes, because they would do tricks and spin the ball on their fingers, but I never thought about the word globetrotter. They're actually trotting the globe, and it made me think about the experience of Black people trotting the globe, being the original trotters of the globe, and traveling from one place willingly and unwillingly. Now, this piece, I don't know if I gave you guys the title of that, the little kid praying in the beginning. The title of that is called Our Father Who Art in Heaven. And this begins my prayer series. I've been working on the prayer series, the Bad American Dream series, and also the Globetrotter sculpture series. And this piece right here, this is actually one of the Henry O. Tanner. I was reading this book, African American Art. And I noticed this painting, at first, I didn't think this painting was done by a Black man. And Henry O. Tanner, I was reading articles on him, and he was one of the earliest Black painters to be recognized in the 19th century. And he made this painting, and I thought it was very cinematic. It reminded me of I can't think of the photographer's name, but how cinematic it was. Henry O. Tanner, he was someone who struggled with his race, because he was someone who passed for being white, and he didn't get any recognition as being an artist in America. So he went to Europe and gained recognition as a big artist, and now he's a big deal. I knew nothing of him, and I thought this piece was a good way for me to segue into my prayer series. As you can see, The Last Supper by, is that Michelangelo? Da Vinci. I always get those confused because of the Ninja Turtles. So sorry, I'm a 90s baby, and the Ninja Turtles is a really big deal for me, and they're all named by Donatello, Michelangelo, and Da Vinci. So each Ninja Turtle has the famous painters' names. But yes, this one is called Oh White Jesus, Please Bless My Pork Chops, Cornbread, and Collard Greens. Really interested in Robert Colescott's work. He's a painter that I really love. Another ambiguously Black painter, but he has humor in his work, and it's really interesting how he straddles the fence with humor, and that's something I wanted to do with that title, with the pork chops and cornbread and collard greens, and also Kool-Aid. Here's another one, same composition, different style of prayer. Really studying different religions and how they pray. Excuse me. And here's an above perspective on the prayer series. So going back to that perspective thing, above, beneath, and here's our Father who art in heaven. With this piece, I really wanted to get into the chiaroscuro, or the chiaroscuro style of playing when painting from really Black subjects. And this is actually a piece that was really successful on, I hate to say this, but on Instagram. It received over 20,000 likes and over 300,000 views. I was really surprised by that because that's never happened. And I was asking myself, why did so many people relate to this piece? And what I realized that when I use paintings using my memory, nostalgia is one of those things that gives people the ability to time travel. I know that's something that we see in movies, but just the thought, sometimes even a picture or a smell could take us back 60 years or 10 years to a very specific moment. And this piece did it for over 20,000 people. And I was amazed. And it kept my phone really hot. It's just getting too many notifications. And that's it. Right at 46 minutes. I'm open to all questions, and I can go back to any painting that you would like me to go back to.
I'm sorry, I came a little late. Were there any other artists in your family? Where did you get your talent from or your desire to do art?
You know what? That's a really good question. Yes, she asked, was there anybody in my family who painted or drew that inspired me? And yes, it was. So like I said, I used to draw as a kid while when I was supposed to be doing my homework, I would draw my favorite anime characters. And my aunt, who went to design school in New York, she came back with a light up board from New York. It was a light up board where you could trace trace things, because that's what she used in design school. But I was using it with my coloring books, and I would trace all of my favorite characters. And doing those tracings really helped me to do it without the actual, I could do it freehand. And so my aunt really inspired me, not knowing. She was probably just handing me the light up board so I could sit there and be quiet and watch music videos and just chill, because I was giving her a hard time about the artwork. But yes. And my grandfather, who I was playing checkers with, he was an architect. He could draw really well. And he had I probably shouldn't say this, but he had penmanship, like George Washington or something. I don't know why.
You have a lot of series that you've done over the years. What's the next series that you're working on?
So the next series right now, the series that I'm working on right now is the Globetrotter series. I want to finish that because right now I have a bunch of globes. If you were to come into my studio, like I said, every time I go to a thrift store or a Salvation Army, I keep seeing globes. And I'm realizing that there's so much history in globes. Sometimes I have a globe right now that has Columbus with the ship going across the year. You see different states change and countries change. The names of countries change over time. And I'm realizing I'm preserving history, but also, talking about the Globetrotters. But I'm working on that. Really, that's first. That's first. If God says the same, I could just focus on that Globetrotter series, but also the prayer series. I'm pretty far in the prayer series, and I didn't put the painting. It's another painting that I wanted to include from this prayer series, and just I'm changing the perspective on it. So that and the Bad American Dream. So Globetrotter series, the Bad American Dream, and the prayer series. The Bad American Dream is there's so much going on in the world right now. It's like hard for me not to make anything about it. So it's like I want to do the Globetrotter thing, but it kind of all intertwined because prayer is what we need the most right now. Yes.
I have a grandson who loves playing basketball, and he's pretty good at it, although he's waiting for his growth spurt. His dad and his mother are both tall, so he has expectations. I love the basketball pictures, especially the ones with the kids playing from
The top.
Yeah. So do you have prints, or do you sell your paintings? How does one get something like that?
I do actually sell prints of that specific painting, the one up above, and I also have that specific painting for sale too. I could get your email after this, and I could send you a price list of everything, if that's the right way of going about selling artwork. You know, that's such a touchy thing, but yeah, I have prints online on my website. But yeah, that painting is definitely still in my studio. I look at it all the time. Yes.
So I noticed some of your quotes had the USA cut out or something in North America cut out. What was your thought behind that rather than having the Africa cut out?
Oh, okay. Yes. So I did have Africa cut out, and I had America cut out, and I also have one with Europe and all of the, everything over that way cut out too. And I really thought it would make for good conversation. And I knew psychologically if I cut out America, Americans would be like, why'd you cut us out? And now I knew if I cut out Africa, people were asking, why'd you cut Africa out? And I just wanted to have something that could create conversation when you get in front of the pieces, because I feel like sometimes when we get in galleries, we just walk by things, and I'm always thinking about how can I get you to stay there? So it's very interesting to see. And I knew it would be interesting to see America cut out. I'm like, man, I'm in America. I don't really want nothing to happen. But yeah, it's an interesting conversation starter, I feel like.
Well, it started a conversation in my mind.
And you know what? I think you might have a lot of stuff that it might mean something to you, and you could probably say a lot about it. And I think that's what's so important, when the viewer could create that dialogue. And you might be next to somebody in the museum, and you're like, what? This is America's cut out, and you start talking about how it makes you feel, and they might have a whole different perspective. And I think that's the beauty of artwork. Yes.
Jonah, are there any paintings that you had a hard time selling, like a child, something you created that you loved so much? Was it hard to sell?
Yeah, that painting of me and my grandfather playing checkers, I actually had it on like a sale list at some point, and it was a lot of people inquiring about it, and I was like, no, I can't sell this. This is it's too special to me. And I was like, I gotta keep it. I can't sell it, as much as I needed the money, being a surviving artist, not a starving artist, surviving artist. But it's really, honestly, not only just that piece, it's a lot of pieces like that. Even this piece right here, even with like 20,000 people liking it, I'm like, man, I could easily sell this, but I'm like, do I really want to? So, I feel like I get attached to pieces, just spending time and actually doing labor on these pieces. It's hard to separate from them. Yes.
One more question.
I have noticed that the soles and the palms glow and come out and meet me first when I view a lot of your pieces. Is there a reason for that, or do you know? Just like there was in the prayer one, the well, even here, the palms, they jump out at you first, and then sometimes the sole of the feet, right here.
That one.
Yeah, that one in particular. The palms are together, but still they're prevalent and jump out at you first.
Yes. I think I do that, and Unconsciously, I do it because I really spend a lot of time. I think something I learned in grad school and undergrad too is to find something that you can spend time on that could really connect with the viewer. And I think palms and hands is something we look at every day. I mean, of course, we look at everything every day, but these are things that we look at every day. And I feel like those are the things we really have a relationship to. And I knew getting those hands tight, really tight, could really, you know, sometimes we're on the plane and we get a little turbulence and we're like, oh God, please let you get like real tight. So it to me, it's about like, you know, just showing that intensity. And I do that a lot with like hands and feet. It's like, it's something I want you to see. I'm just trying to get the viewer to see something. I got one more. Sorry.
The painting that is on the wall, I mean, to me, it looks like the Last Supper.
It does.
Is that what that is?
Yes, that's the Last Supper.
Okay, I like the relationship.
Yes, that's.
It's very meaningful.
Yes, thank you. I definitely put that there for that reason right there. All right, thank you guys.
Great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. There's a reception outside. Please join us. Talk to Jonah. I mean, how can you stop talking to him? So thank you for coming.